I've been an engineer for 23 years. My job is simple. I make sure buildings don't collapse. I calculate load-bearing capacity, stress points, and structural integrity. I've never had a project fail because I understand one fundamental principle. Every structure has limits, and when you exceed them, failure isn't a possibility. It's a certainty. I should have applied that same logic to my marriage years ago. It was just past midnight when Mackenzie burst into our suite at the Emerald Coast Resort. My wife Deborah and I had already changed into comfortable clothes, and I was reviewing some project notes on my tablet when the door flew open without so much as a knock. "Oh, perfect. You're still awake," Mackenzie announced, Colton trailing behind her with that same vacant smile he always wore. "We need this room." I set down my tablet. "Excuse me. The suite. We need it." She gestured around like she was doing us a favor by explaining. "Colton and I are going to create content tomorrow morning. Sunrise shots from the balcony, the whole aesthetic. Your room on the third floor doesn't have the right light." Deborah sat up in bed. "Sweetie, we can't just switch rooms at midnight." "Mom, this is important. Do you know how many followers I'll gain with shots from this angle?" Mackenzie was already opening the balcony doors, phone out, framing shots. "Besides, you two don't even use the view. You've been in here working all evening." That last part was directed at me with enough edge to cut steel. "Mackenzie, this is our anniversary trip," I said, keeping my voice level. "We booked this suite 6 months ago." Colton finally spoke up. "Come on, man. It's just one night. We'll switch back tomorrow." I looked at this kid, 24 years old, no job, living off whatever Mackenzie gave him from her trust fund. The same trust fund I'd watched Deborah drain her savings to supplement because Mackenzie kept investing in failed business ventures. "No," I said simply. Mackenzie's eyes went wide. Apparently, she wasn't used to hearing that word. "Are you serious right now?" "Completely." She turned to Deborah. "Mom, tell him." And here's where 20 years of marriage collapsed into a single moment. Deborah looked at me with those pleading eyes I'd seen 1,000 times before. The same look when Mackenzie needed money for her boutique that closed after 3 months. The same look when we had to bail her out of a lease she couldn't afford. The same look every single time her daughter's problems became our problems. "Cole," Deborah said softly, "just let her have it. It's easier. Don't be difficult about this. Don't be difficult." As if setting a boundary in my own anniversary suite was me being unreasonable. I stood up and walked to the closet. Deborah followed me. "What are you doing?" "Packing." "Cole, come on. It's one night. We can take their room." "No, Deborah. We can't." I pulled my suitcase down from the shelf. "Because this isn't about a room. This is about the fact that your daughter just walked into our suite at midnight and demanded we leave, and your response was to tell me not to be difficult." Behind us, I could hear Mackenzie already on the phone with room service, ordering champagne. Colton was testing the water pressure in the shower. Deborah lowered her voice. "You're overreacting." "Am I?" I folded a shirt with precise movements. "When's the last time Mackenzie faced a consequence for anything? When's the last time you chose your husband over your daughter's whims?" "That's not fair." "Fair." I zipped up my bag. "You want to talk about fair? I paid for this entire trip. I paid for her flight here. I paid for the rental car she wrecked last year. I paid for the business consultation that turned out to be a pyramid scheme. And now I'm supposed to give up my anniversary suite because she needs better lighting for Instagram?" Deborah's eyes filled with tears. "Why are you being like this?" That's when I realized something. After 2 decades of marriage, she genuinely didn't understand. She'd confused my patience for weakness for so long that she actually believed I had no limits. "I'll be downstairs," I said, shouldering my bag. "Cole, wait. Where are you going to sleep?" "That's not your concern anymore." I walked past Mackenzie, who was already sprawled on our bed, scrolling through her phone. She didn't even look up. Colton did, though. "Hey man, no hard feelings, right?" I stopped at the door and looked back at him. At Mackenzie. At Deborah standing in the middle of the room, looking confused about why I wasn't just accepting this like I'd accepted everything else. "Enjoy the champagne," I said. "It's top shelf. I made sure of that when I booked the suite." I closed the door on the sound of Deborah calling my name. The hallway was quiet, clean, peaceful. I took the elevator down to the lobby, and for the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. Because here's what Deborah never understood about engineering. When you identify a structural flaw, you don't just live with it and hope for the best. You tear it down and start over. and I had a lot of tearing down to do. The lobby was nearly empty at 1 in the morning. Just a night clerk scrolling through his phone and a couple having quiet drinks at the bar. I approached the front desk, and the clerk straightened up when he saw me. "Mr. Brooks, is everything all right with your suite?" "The suite is fine, Nathan. I'd made a point to learn the staff's names when we checked in. I need to make some changes to the reservations." He pulled up my account. "Of course. What can I help you with?" Everything at this resort was booked through Brooks and Marshall Associates. Corporate account. I need to revoke all authorizations except for my personal reservation, which I'll be checking out of within the hour. Nathan's fingers paused over the keyboard. "I'm sorry, could you clarify? You want to remove authorization for Mrs. Jenkins and Miss Mackenzie Jenkins. Remove them from all corporate billing. The spa appointments tomorrow, the restaurant reservations, the water sports package, all of it. If they want to maintain their stay, they'll need to provide their own payment method and a security deposit." He looked uncomfortable. "Mr. Brooks, it's quite late. Perhaps in the morning when you've had a chance to." "Nathan, I'm an engineer. I don't make impulsive decisions." I slid my corporate card across the counter. "I'm making a structural correction. How much is currently charged to the suite?" He checked. "Including the champagne that was just ordered, approximately $2,300. Put it on my personal card. Everything from this point forward requires separate payment authorization from whoever's occupying the space. I'll also need you to note that the security deposit requirements have changed. Standard policy for guests without corporate backing. What is that? $5,000. Yes, sir. $5,000 hold for suites of that category. Perfect. They'll need to provide that by noon tomorrow or vacate the room. Are we clear?" Nathan nodded slowly, processing what this meant. "Crystal clear, Mr. Brooks. I'll make the notes in the system immediately." "Appreciate it." I pulled out my phone and opened my email. I also need to contact the concierge service about the return flights. Those were booked through the corporate travel account as well. The 3 business class seats on Friday's afternoon flight. Cancel 2 of them. Keep mine. I was already typing an email to June, my assistant back at the office. It was late, but she'd see it first thing in the morning. Also cancel the rental car reservation for the week. I'll arrange my own transportation to the airport. Nathan was trying to maintain his professional composure, but I could see the questions in his eyes. "Will there be anything else?" "Yes. I need a printout of all charges and authorizations currently on file. Complete documentation." He printed everything out, stapled it neatly, and slid it across the counter. I reviewed each page carefully. The spa day Mackenzie had booked for herself and 3 friends she'd met at the pool. The private dinner reservation at the resort's premium steakhouse. The jet ski rental. The photography package. All of it billed to Brooks and Marshall Associates. All of it authorized by Deborah using the corporate card I'd given her for emergencies. "One more thing," I said. "There's a corporate insurance policy attached to this reservation. Travel insurance, medical coverage, the comprehensive package. Remove Mrs. Jenkins and Miss Jenkins from that policy effective immediately. Mr. Brooks, if there's a medical emergency, then they'll handle it like every other guest at this resort. I'm not being cruel, Nathan. I'm being precise. My company's insurance doesn't cover people who aren't actually conducting company business." He made the final notations. "Everything's updated, sir. Is there anything else I can help you with tonight?" I thought about it. "Actually, yes. What's the earliest flight to Fort Wayne tomorrow?" He checked his computer. "There's a 6:30 morning departure. Makes 1 connection in Atlanta. Book it. First class, if available. Done. Confirmation is being sent to your email now." I picked up my suitcase. "Thanks for your help, Nathan. You've been extremely professional." "Just doing my job, sir." He paused. "For what it's worth, I hope everything works out." "It will," I said, "because I'm making sure of it." I headed toward the elevators, then changed my mind and walked to the bar instead. I ordered a bourbon, neat, and sat there in the quiet darkness looking out at the ocean. My phone buzzed. A text from Deborah. "Where are you? Mackenzie wants to know if you moved the car." I didn't respond. Another buzz. "Cole, this is ridiculous. Come back upstairs, and we'll talk about this in the morning." I silenced my phone and finished my bourbon. The bartender, an older gentleman named William, refilled my glass without asking. "Rough night?" he asked. "Clarifying night," I corrected. "There's a difference." He smiled. "I've been married 38 years. I know exactly what you mean." I raised my glass. "Here's to structural integrity." I'll drink to that. At 5 in the morning, I was in a taxi heading to the airport. The sun was just starting to paint the sky pink and orange. My phone had 17 missed calls and 23 text messages. I didn't check any of them because Deborah still thought this was about a room. She still thought I'd cool off and come back and we'd laugh about this someday. She had no idea I'd just dismantled the entire foundation of her comfortable life. But she was about to find out. By the time my flight took off, I was already reviewing the Brooks and Marshall Associates accounts on my laptop. And that's when I found something that made the sweet situation look like a minor inconvenience. Someone had been stealing from my company, and I had a pretty good idea who. Mackenzie woke up at 9 with a splitting headache and the ocean view she demanded. Colton was still snoring beside her, one arm draped over the pillow where I'd been sleeping just hours before. She reached for her phone and ordered breakfast. Eggs Benedict, fresh fruit, French press coffee, the works. The kind of breakfast that costs $80 at a resort like this. She didn't even look at the price. 30 minutes later, there was a knock at the door. But instead of room service, it was Nathan from the front desk, looking significantly less friendly than he had at 1 in the morning. Miss Jenkins, we need to discuss your account. What about it? Mackenzie was already annoyed. She wanted her breakfast, not a conversation. Your corporate authorization has been revoked. We'll need an alternative payment method for your stay, along with a $5,000 security deposit. What are you talking about? My stepdad set everything up. Mr. Brooks has removed you and Mrs. Jenkins from the corporate account. All charges going forward will require your personal payment information. Mackenzie laughed. That's insane. He's just being petty because we took the suite. My mom will sort this out. Your mother has been informed as well. We attempted to process her card on file for this morning's room service order, and it was declined. That got her attention. Declined? That's impossible. Nevertheless, we'll need payment for the current charges and the security deposit by noon today, or we'll have to ask you to check out. Mackenzie immediately called Deborah, who was in the smaller room on the 3rd floor, already dealing with her own financial crisis. Mom, what the hell is going on? They're saying Cole canceled everything. Deborah's voice was tight. I know. I've been trying to reach him all morning. He's not answering. Well, fix it. I have people coming for brunch at 11. Mackenzie, I can't fix it. I just tried to use our joint account card, and it's frozen. Everything's frozen. What do you mean frozen? I mean Cole has locked me out of our accounts. All of them. Mackenzie felt the first flutter of actual concern. He can't do that. You're married. Apparently he can. The house account, the credit cards, everything is in his name. I'm just an authorized user. Deborah's voice cracked. I have $300 in my personal checking account. That's it. So call him. Make him stop this. Don't you think I've tried? He's not picking up. I called the office and June said he's in meetings all day and specifically asked not to be disturbed. Mackenzie's phone beeped. Another call coming through. She ignored it. This is psychotic. All this because we wanted the suite for one night. I don't think this is about the suite anymore. The beep came again. This time Mackenzie checked. It was the resort billing department. Then another call from the spa canceling her appointments. Then the concierge informing her that her dinner reservation had been canceled due to lack of payment guarantee. Colton finally woke up. What's all the noise? Cole lost his mind. He canceled everything and froze all the money. Colton processed this slowly. So, how are we getting home? Mackenzie hadn't even thought about that. What do you mean? The flights. He booked those too, right? She immediately called the airline. After 15 minutes on hold, they confirmed what she was afraid of. 2 of the 3 business class reservations for Friday had been canceled. Only Cole's seat remained. They want $450 each for economy seats, Mackenzie said, her voice getting higher. Plus we have to pay for checked bags. Deborah was spiraling on her end of the call. I can't believe he's doing this. 20 years of marriage, and he just walks away over one argument. Mom, focus. How do we get out of here? There was a long pause. I have to call my mother. Grandma Beverly? She's going to lose it. I don't have a choice. She's the only one who can wire me money fast enough. Mackenzie looked around the suite that had seemed so perfect 12 hours ago. The ocean view, the marble bathroom, the private balcony. All of it suddenly felt like a prison. Nathan knocked again. Miss Jenkins, we really do need to resolve the payment situation. I'm working on it, she snapped. You have until noon. After that, we'll need to move you to a standard room or process your checkout. Fine. Whatever. She hung up with Deborah and tried calling Cole herself. Straight to voicemail. She left a message that started calm and ended with her screaming into the phone about what a controlling jerk he was. Colton was looking through the room service menu. Think we can still order lunch? Are you stupid? We can't order anything. We're broke. You're not broke. You have your trust fund. Mackenzie's face went pale. That's not available until next quarter. And even then, it's only $3,000 a month. Wait, I thought you were loaded. I am. The money just isn't liquid right now. She was pacing. Most of it's invested. I can't just pull it out. Colton sat up. So what you're saying is we actually have a problem? Yes, Colton. We have a problem. My stepdad just stranded us at a luxury resort with no money and no way home. Her phone rang again. Beverly this time. Mackenzie answered. Mackenzie Rose Jenkins, what on earth did you do? Grandma, it's not. Your mother just called me crying. She says Cole abandoned you both in Florida. What happened? Mackenzie launched into her version of events, painting Cole as unreasonable and herself as the victim of his midlife crisis. Beverly listened in silence. Then she said something that made Mackenzie's stomach drop. He didn't abandon you, sweetheart. He removed his financial support. There's a difference. And frankly, I'm not surprised. What's that supposed to mean? It means I've watched you and your mother take advantage of that man for years. I'm amazed he put up with it this long. Grandma, I'll wire your mother $2,000 for hotel and flights. That's it. Whatever else is happening, you two created it. Now you get to figure out how to fix it. The call ended. Mackenzie looked at Colton, who was still sitting on the bed in his boxers, completely useless. We need to get home, she said, and then I need to fix this. But back in Fort Wayne, Cole was already 3 steps ahead, and what he'd found in the company accounts was going to make the resort incident look like a minor misunderstanding. By the time Deborah and Mackenzie got back to Indiana, there wouldn't be anything left to fix. I landed in Fort Wayne at 2 in the afternoon. June was waiting at the airport with a coffee and the file I'd requested. You look terrible, she said, handing me both. Didn't sleep on the plane. I took a long drink. Did you pull everything I asked for? Every transaction from Brooks and Marshall Associates for the past 24 months. Flagged anything that looked irregular. She followed me to the parking garage. Cole, some of these entries are concerning. Show me in the car. We sat in my truck and she opened the laptop. Here, Spears Advisory Group. They've been billing us for consulting services since 18 months ago. Started small, 500 here, 1,000 there. But in the last 6 months, the invoices jumped significantly. I scrolled through the entries. March, 3,000. April, 5,000. May, 7,500. June had just processed 8,200. What kind of consulting? That's the thing. The invoices are vague. Strategic planning services, business development consultation, market analysis. Nothing specific. And I can't find any deliverables, reports, or documentation of what we actually received for this money. Who approved these payments? June pulled up the authorization forms. Every single one had Deborah's signature as an authorized account manager. I'd added her to the company paperwork 3 years ago when she complained about not being involved in my work. I need everything on Spears Advisory Group. Business registration, owners, address, everything. June was already typing. Way ahead of you. Here's where it gets interesting. Spears Advisory Group was registered 14 months ago. The business address is a UPS store in Indianapolis. And the registered agent is, she turned the laptop so I could see clearly, Colton Spears. I sat back in my seat. Colton, the same kid who'd been smirking at me in my anniversary suite 12 hours ago. The same kid who Mackenzie had been dating for exactly 14 months. Pull up his social media. Everything. June already had it ready. Colton's Instagram was a masterclass in borrowed luxury. Photos at expensive restaurants, designer clothes, a BMW that was too new for someone with no job, and sprinkled throughout, screenshots of deposits to various betting apps. He's got a gambling problem, I said. Had, June corrected. Look at the dates. The screenshots stop about 6 months ago, right around when the invoices to us tripled. I understood immediately. Colton had dug himself into a hole with online gambling. The screenshots were him bragging about wins while hiding the losses. Then the money ran out, the debts came due, and suddenly he needed a revenue stream. Enter Mackenzie, with access to her mother's corporate credit authorization. Pull the bank statements for every payment to Spears Advisory. I want to see where that money went after it left our account. June worked her magic. 20 minutes later, we had the trail. Money from Brooks and Marshall went to Spears Advisory's business account. From there, it was immediately transferred to Colton's personal account. And from Colton's account, it went everywhere. Online betting sites, cash advances, payments to what appeared to be loan sharks based on the transaction descriptions. $80,000. Gone. Cole, this is fraud. Straight up embezzlement. I know. We need to call the police. And Micah needs to know immediately. Micah Marshall, my business partner for 15 years. The man who'd trusted me when I brought Deborah into company functions, who'd shaken Mackenzie's hand at office parties, who'd never once questioned my judgment. I called him. Micah, I need you to meet me at the office. Now, I'm watching the game. Can this wait until Monday? No, it can't. And bring the company attorney. There was a pause. Cole, what's going on? Someone's been stealing from us. I'll explain when you get there. 90 minutes later, we were in the conference room. Micah, our attorney Elizabeth Perry, June, and me. I laid it all out. The fake consulting company, the forged authorizations, the money trail, everything. Micah's face went from confused to angry to something close to devastated. Deborah did this. Deborah authorized the payments. I don't think she fully understood what she was authorizing. But Mackenzie and Colton absolutely knew. They created the shell company, generated fake invoices, and systematically drained our accounts. Elizabeth was taking notes. Do you have evidence linking Mackenzie directly to the fraud? June slid across a printed email. This is from Mackenzie's personal email to Colton. Found it in a cloud backup. She's discussing how much they can bill this month without raising flags. Direct quote. My mom doesn't actually read the invoices, she just signs what I tell her to. Micah stood up and walked to the window. 15 years we've built this company. Our reputation is spotless, and your wife's daughter nearly destroyed it for gambling debts. Ex-wife, I said quietly. I'm filing for divorce Monday morning. Elizabeth looked up. Cole, with evidence of fraud, you have grounds for immediate separation of assets. She won't have any claim to company property or your personal holdings. I want more than that. I want criminal charges filed against Colton, and I want Mackenzie facing consequences too. Mackenzie's an adult. She created the fraud. She's liable. Elizabeth tapped her pen on the table. However, if she cooperates and testifies against Colton, we might be able to negotiate a lesser charge. Restitution instead of prison time. And Deborah? Deborah's trickier. She signed the authorizations, but if she can prove she didn't know they were fraudulent, she might avoid criminal liability. Civil liability is different. She's still responsible for the financial damage. Micah turned back to us. I want our money back. All of it. We'll file a civil suit regardless of criminal outcomes, Elizabeth said. We'll attach liens to any assets they have. Freeze accounts. The works. I thought about Deborah waking up in that hotel room, confused about why her cards weren't working, about Mackenzie's entitled face when she demanded my suite, about Colton's smirk. Do it, I said. All of it. June cleared her throat. Cole, Deborah's been calling the office all day. She sounds desperate. She can stay desperate. I'm not speaking to her until she's served with papers. Elizabeth packed up her files. I'll have the divorce petition ready by Monday morning. Restraining order too, if you want it. I want it. I want her out of my house and away from my business. Micah walked me to my truck after the meeting. You doing okay? Honestly, I feel like I've been carrying a cracked beam for 20 years and I finally get to set it down. He laughed, but it was hollow. I like Deborah. I thought she was good for you. She was good at pretending. There's a difference. I climbed into the driver's seat. I'll see you Monday. We've got a company to protect. I drove home to the empty house. No Deborah leaving lights on in every room. No Mackenzie's voice echoing from video calls with her friends. Just silence and space and the foundation I'd built before either of them showed up. My phone buzzed. Another message from Deborah. I didn't read it. Instead, I forwarded everything to Elizabeth and blocked the number. Because here's what I'd learned in 23 years of engineering. When you find structural damage, you don't patch it and hope. You remove the compromised elements entirely. And I just identified every compromised element in my life. Now came the part where I removed them. 3 days later, Deborah and Mackenzie finally made it back to Fort Wayne. Beverly had wired enough money to cover the hotel bill and economy flights home. They'd spent their last night at the resort in a standard room with a parking lot view. eating vending machine snacks because they couldn't afford the restaurant. Mackenzie had been furious the entire trip. Deborah had been quiet, which was somehow worse. They pulled up to the house in a taxi at 4 in the afternoon. The driver waited while they got their bags, clearly instructed not to leave until payment cleared. Beverly had thought of everything. Deborah used her key. It didn't work. She tried again. Nothing. I'd had the locks changed the day after I got back. Cole, she shouted, pounding on the door. Cole, open up. I know you're in there. I let them knock for a full minute before I answered. When I opened the door, Micah was standing beside me. Deborah's face went from angry to confused. Micah, what are you doing here? Mrs. Jenkins, Mr. Brooks has asked me to be present for this conversation. He gestured to the living room. Please come in. They stepped inside, dragging their suitcases. Mackenzie immediately started. You know what, Cole? You're absolutely. Sit down and be quiet. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't need to. You'll get your turn to talk. Right now, you're going to listen. Something in my tone made her actually shut up. They both sat on the couch. I remained standing, a manila folder in my hands. Deborah, do you know what Spears Advisory Group is? She blinked. No. Should I? I opened the folder and pulled out the first document. It's a consulting company that's been billing Brooks and Marshall Associates for the past 18 months. You authorized every single payment. I don't remember any. You signed the authorizations. Your signature is on every one. I laid them out on the coffee table. $80,000. That's what you approved. Deborah picked up one of the forms, her hands shaking. Cole, I signed dozens of forms for your company. You told me to. I didn't know what this was. That's the problem. You didn't know. You didn't ask. You just signed whatever Mackenzie put in front of you. Mackenzie went very still. I pulled out the next set of documents. Spears Advisory Group is owned by Colton. The invoices were fake. The services were fake. The entire company was created for one purpose: to steal money from my business to pay off Colton's gambling debts. The color drained from Deborah's face. That's not possible. It's not only possible, it happened. And your daughter helped him do it. I dropped the printed email on the table. Read it. Out loud. Deborah picked up the paper. Her voice was barely a whisper. Mom doesn't actually read the invoices. She just signs what I tell her to. Mackenzie jumped up. That's out of context. I was joking. Sit down, Micah said. His voice was calm, but hard as concrete. Miss Jenkins, you created a fraudulent business entity and used it to embezzle funds from a registered corporation. That's not a joke. That's a felony. She sat. I continued. Colton is currently under investigation by the FBI for wire fraud across multiple states. He's been running variations of this scam on at least 4 other companies. The agent I spoke with yesterday was very interested in your involvement, Mackenzie. I didn't know about the other companies. I swear, I only helped him with yours. Oh, well, that makes it so much better. Deborah was crying now. Cole, please. We can fix this. I'll pay back every penny. With what money, Deborah? Your $300 checking account. Or maybe Mackenzie's trust fund that's currently frozen by court order. Mackenzie's head snapped up. What? As of this morning, all of your assets are subject to seizure pending the outcome of the fraud investigation. That includes the trust fund your grandmother set up. Consider it incentive to cooperate. Deborah stood up, reaching for me. Cole, I didn't know. You have to believe me. I would never. You would never what? Betray me? You did that in the suite when you chose her tantrum over our anniversary. You did it every time you prioritized her comfort over our marriage. You did it when you signed those forms without reading them because it was easier than paying attention. That's not fair. Fair? Let's talk about fair. I paid for everything. Your daughter's failed businesses, her car, her credit cards, her lifestyle. I paid for a 20-year-old to live like a trust fund princess while she stole from me. And when I finally set one single boundary about a hotel room, you called me difficult. Micah placed another folder on the table. These are divorce papers. Mr. Brooks is filing on grounds of fraud and irreconcilable differences. The house is in his name only, purchased before the marriage. You have 48 hours to remove your personal belongings. Deborah's legs seemed to give out. She sank back onto the couch. I looked at Mackenzie. You have a choice. You can cooperate with the investigation against Colton, testify truthfully, and we'll recommend the prosecutor go easy. Restitution, community service, probation. Or you can protect him, and you'll face the full weight of federal fraud charges. Your decision. He's my boyfriend. He's a con artist who used you to commit crimes. But sure, protect him. See how that works out. Elizabeth Perry walked in from the kitchen, where she'd been waiting. Mrs. Jenkins, I'm Mr. Brooks' attorney. You're being served. She handed Deborah a thick envelope. That's the divorce petition, a restraining order requiring you to stay at least 500 feet from Brooks and Marshall Associates, and notice of our intent to file a civil suit for damages. Deborah opened the envelope with trembling hands. A restraining order? Cole, I'm your wife. Not for much longer. And you're also a liability. I protect my assets, Deborah. I always have. I just stopped counting you as one. Mackenzie finally found her voice. You're really going to destroy us over this? I didn't destroy anything. You did. I'm just refusing to keep pretending the foundation isn't cracked. I picked up my keys. Micah will supervise while you pack. You have 2 hours. After that, the locks get changed again and anything left behind gets donated. Deborah was sobbing. Where am I supposed to go? Call Beverly. She seems to be the only person in your family with any sense. I walked to the door, then stopped. By the way, Deborah, I had the house appraised last week. It's worth $460,000. You have no claim to it. The retirement accounts are mine. The cars are mine. The investment portfolio is mine. Everything you thought was ours was actually always mine. You were just along for the ride. 20 years of marriage, and I get nothing. You get exactly what you invested, which was nothing. I opened the door. 2 hours. Micah will make sure you stick to it. I left them there, in the house that had never truly been theirs, surrounded by the debris of choices that caught up with them. June called as I was driving. Cole, the FBI wants to interview you tomorrow about the case. Set it up. I'll tell them everything. Also, Colton just got arrested. They found evidence linking him to 6 different fraud schemes. He's looking at serious time. Good. Mackenzie's probably going to need that deal. Then she better start talking. I pulled into the parking lot of my office. Because if she thinks I'm going to save her after what she did, she's about to learn the same lesson her mother just learned. Which is, when you kick the foundation out from under your own life, don't be surprised when everything collapses. I hung up and walked into my office. The building I'd helped design. The company I'd built with my own hands. The life I'd created before Deborah and Mackenzie had ever been part of it. And for the first time in 20 years, it felt like it was actually mine again. 6 months later, I was sitting in my home office reviewing structural plans for a hospital expansion when June called. The civil suit settled. Full restitution plus damages. $87,000 total. Colton's paying? His family is. They liquidated assets to keep him from facing additional charges. He still got 18 months federal, but it could have been worse. And Mackenzie? Probation, community service, and she's banned from holding any corporate position for 7 years. She testified against him like we asked. I signed off on the plans in front of me. Good. That's done then. Deborah tried calling the office again. She can keep trying. The divorce had been finalized 3 months ago. Deborah got exactly what I'd promised, nothing. She'd moved in with Beverly and was working retail to pay her legal bills. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she'd started therapy. Too little, too late. My house was quiet now. No drama, no chaos. No one demanding things they hadn't earned. Just the life I'd built, standing solid on the foundation I'd carefully maintained. Micah stopped by that evening with bourbon and cigars. We sat on my back deck watching the sunset. You seem good, he said. I am good. No regrets. About what? Setting boundaries? Protecting what I built? Not even a little. He lit his cigar. Beverly called me last week. Said Deborah's devastated. Wants to know if there's any chance. There isn't. She said Deborah finally understands what she lost. I took a drink. Then she learned something valuable. Just 20 years too late. We sat in comfortable silence. My phone stayed quiet. My account stayed secure. My life stayed mine. Because here's what I'd spent 2 decades learning. You can't build anything lasting on a cracked foundation. You can't maintain structural integrity when the people around you keep removing support beams. And you can't keep a building standing when someone's actively tearing it down from the inside. Deborah had asked me once why I was being so cold about everything. The answer was simple. I wasn't being cold. I was being an engineer. I'd identified the failure points, calculated the damage, and made the necessary corrections. The fact that those corrections required removing certain elements wasn't cruelty. It was just structural necessity. Micah raised his glass. To knowing when to walk away. To knowing when to rebuild. I corrected. We drank to that. And somewhere across town, in a small apartment she could barely afford, Deborah was probably wondering how everything fell apart so quickly. But I could have told her the answer. I'd been trying to tell her for 20 years. It didn't fall apart quickly. It had been failing slowly, one compromise at a time, one boundary crossed, one disrespect tolerated. I just finally stopped pretending I couldn't see the cracks. The structure had been condemned long before I walked out of that suite. I just made it official. And now, sitting in my house with my company intact and my life back under my control, I could finally see clearly. Some buildings can be repaired. Others need to be demolished so you can start fresh. I'd chosen to start fresh, and I'd never been more certain of any structural decision in my life.